Hello there, Thursday community. We have an exciting new segment called Happy Hour. Every third Thursday, we're going to have people call in and have different guests and talk about different really cool topics. This first one is with Heather Ransom and Sam Anderson, and we talk about low and no. Thank you for listening, and be sure to subscribe to be notified of all new episodes.
Holidays, everybody. These are my two dear friends, Jessie Ott and Heather Ransom. We got to know each other over the course of the last, 8 months or so. And we met over LinkedIn, believe it or not, which is a wonderful platform for me this year because I've connected to some wonderful friends. And I can straight up call the two of you friends of mine, at least from my point of view, you're friends.
We're friends, Sam. Come on. That's pushing it. You're pushing my buttons over here. Of course. Yeah. And you know what's cool too is I just remembered that we're all connected to Thursday because you saw Brian's post.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Matter of fact, speaking of what's going on in the news, well, Heather, hello, Heather.
Hi. How are you?
How are you being awfully quiet over there?
Yeah, well, I'm waiting for the introductions, but yeah, it's true. It's interesting thinking about reflecting how 2023, we've all created these new relationships around this new energy that we're experiencing in the beverage space. And it's good to make new friends at the early stages because we're all going to need each other as we navigate this sea change, right?
Yeah. Yep. Well, yeah, why don't we do this to your point introduction? So why don't you start, Heather, and introduce yourself, tell you who you are. And then Jessie, tell who you are and kind of what we're planning here every third Thursday. And then I'll tell you who I am. We'll just have a conversation for the next hour or so. Does that work?
Hours.
4 hours, as we get into it. I got plenty of products back here to enjoy innovations. So,
is this live? Like, are you?
No, we'll have to figure that out in future episodes. I haven't figured out I couldn't figure it out. So.
Okay. Well, I can work on it too.
Yeah.
I can't have call-ins. You can.
Okay. All right, Heather, you're up.
So, hi, my name is Heather Ransom. I am the founder and CEO of ZeroProofGo.com. We are a travel and tourism website and content digital space to essentially document and help provide support around hospitality venues, adoption of non-alcoholic NOLO beverage programming. So part of it is to educate them and to list them so people who are seeking alternative options to alcoholic beverages can find places that are basically being inclusive in their design. And if they aren't yet inclusive, we're going to help them. We're going to teach them as we're kind of be the ambassador concierge to this new space. So that's kind of what we're up to, and happy to be here to working with you guys on a lot of this stuff. So
that's awesome. Well, I'm excited to start this conversation via this forum. Thursdays, where we're calling it. I'm stealing Jessie's thunder, but this will be our happy hour every third Thursday. So, Jessie, why don't you introduce yourself to a little bit about who you are and what it is you do and what we're trying to accomplish here?
Yeah, sure. Jessie Ott. I am the host of the Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time podcast, but I also have a marketing company where I help brands and restaurants build their brands, help with their menus, that type of thing. I also have a military sales business as well as analytics. So all of that will be forthcoming in Q1, which I'm really excited about. And kind of spent the last year building it and creating what that looks like. And two things that kind of evolved for me were leaning into a couple of different parts of our business, and that's the non-alcoholic space, the low and no, and sake. And so those two are really, in my opinion, the next big wave of excitement in our business. And I'm really excited to see the low and no grow as much as it is, and I'm really banking in on it for not like money wise, but just seeing it for our industry, because I think it's so important for so many people. inclusivity. I know Heather and I talked a lot about that on her podcast because I think it's important for everybody, not just in January, not just in October, but for everybody. And I'm really excited about what that looks like in 2024. So, and I'm super pumped to be working with you guys and
Great.
helping do what I can to move that forward.
Great. And then what's the concept we're trying to do here? So every third Thursday, we're going to meet and invite various people to come on. And I mean, it's pretty open forum, right? Anybody can join us, correct?
Well, I think what I've realized too, and I'll let Heather speak her opinions also. So I'm not speaking for her, but what I've noticed like throughout my podcast is a lot of startups. Right? We're all startups. We're all trying to do something great in our industry or be a part of something great in our industry. And maybe our audience is just that. It's people that have are startups. They're feeling the same pain points. They're feeling the same things that we are. And then maybe we have other people that have been there, done that, and can kind of, advise and help us along the way. Because, as we all know, bootstrapping is, it's only fun for so long. So I don't know. That's kind of my 2 cents anyway.
Yeah.
Great. Well, for me, I'm seeing it a little differently and the same. So I feel like the biggest opportunity here, there's a lot happening around at least the NOLO space that has implications beyond business. There is generational attitudes that are happening and global consciousness that is contributing to the reason we're moving into NOLO. So for me, part of it is looking at it and watching it and reporting on it to the world, because it's really hard when you're like in the beginnings of something like this to capture and document this change. Like in retrospect, right? 50 years now, or let's just even say back in my 20s when I watched the craft beer movement do this whole thing. There was no precedent. And so we were all just like watching it like in awe, like it was like we're all at the World's Fair. Like, what is all this new stuff going on? It was moving so quickly, but nobody was documenting it away or reporting on or talking about it like we can now with technologies like this. So I think that the thought leadership and kind of like everybody coming in and bringing their attitudes to the conversation and being like, this is what we're seeing out here, and really helping to continue to move it forward and support each other through that is kind of what I would like to see out of the podcast. And of course, out of our happy hour. But I also feel like it's moving so fast. We need this. We need this because we're not getting the information quick enough because we have to respond quickly. As these things are happening, we have to move. So we're better as an organism if we're all contributing to that conversation as real time as we possibly can.
Yeah. I think you both captured the essence of what we're trying to accomplish here is to have a discussion, right? And a discussion around various topics. For me, I'm Sam Anderson. I'm a 37-year beverage expert, so to speak. I'm involved in a lot of different things, as you both know. In particular, this space, the NOLO space, I actually think it's going to enhance the overall beverage category. Been a lot of chatter this afternoon on LinkedIn, people talking about this is sea change, to take words out of your mouth. Heather to Megan Anderson talking about, she posted something out there that, the consumer is going to change, and absolutely the consumer is changing. But I don't think it's going to replace, those great whiskeys, those great craft beers or wine. I actually think it's going to enhance the consumer experience in terms of what's available out there. And if anything, it's actually going to drive more people to the category because they're going to be able to grab more things and have different experiences. So I look at it as a consumption occasion that a consumer, depending where they're at in their journey, maybe you never drink. That's your journey. Great. Maybe you want to abstain today because you're going to have something going on tomorrow. But that's the discussion I want to have. I hope that, the suppliers, the restaurateurs, the liquor stores, the grocery stores, and quite frankly, the distributors don't shy away from this conversation, because it is a huge opportunity for everybody. And the most important thing is we're all going after one thing, is that consumer, right? So how do we capture that consumer and meet their need and what they're asking for is the discussion that I want to have about this. I don't know if anybody, did you ever see Brian Rosen's post this afternoon? Yeah, what did you think about that?
Yeah, he says He says he's done for the year, but I don't believe him.
Right, right, right. Well, maybe we can, maybe an accomplishment. We get Brian Rosen to join us on one of these happy hours. I'd love to have him join because he's definitely
Be
an
great.
influencer in the category. The more, the merrier to have this discussion. And Heather, to your point, you say that it's changing constantly. Like, what's the biggest three things, or what are the things you're seeing change really quickly?
So I've been tracking the swell of this for 18 months digitally. So part of what I have been tracking is the energy around the reporting on the initiative. Let's just call it. At that point, it was a trend. It was a fun thing. It was not really mainstream. And so the way I've been tracking it is the only way you really can is through what are people reporting on and what's the news cycle look like on this. And a lot of this energy has been around the seasonality of a sober October or a dry January. So this started 2 years ago, and then last year the dry January energy did not dip and slow down as it did the year previous. It continued. We still started, the conversation continued from dry January all the way through. There was a couple little dips. Well, this year from October on, it just got more and more of a swell. I feel that number one, this is definitely going to be the biggest dry January we've ever seen. What I don't think people realize is how many people are going to try it on this dry January and stay with it. So it wasn't popular to be a non-drinker even a year ago. It was not socially acceptable to be a non-drinker. And you said something very important. And I mentioned this when I was on Thursday's podcast with Jessie before. What is interesting is that we need to meet the market and what their needs are, but the market has not been asking. And the market has not been asking because it has been uncomfortable for them to advocate for themselves. So what's happening is like this weird kind of thing that's been bubbling, but nobody has really until very recently stood up and said, we need this, we want this, and this is changing, because you got bullied. You got bullied as a non-drinker. And that's not the case now. So it's good. So I feel like we're going to see that. This dry January is going to turn into dry February, dry March, dry April for a lot of people. GQ magazine yesterday released an article, said we all now believe that any alcohol for us 2023 is going to be the year that we all realize any amount of alcohol is bad for us. I mean, everybody is now looking at it from a health and wellness perspective. That's not where the old messaging was, where it's a sobriety message. That is the biggest shift we're going to see in 2024 that is going to carry us through and really continue to push this movement to the $30 billion they're talking about by 2025. So this conversation just started, really.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. I know you asked for three, but I think that there's going to be a tremendous pressure by hospitality to respond to the demands that are kind of swelling now. But there's going to be two things that are going to make that decision. I suspect, and I haven't done the data collection yet, that hospitality venues have already seen a dip in sales based on some reports about beer sales being down in Q4. I think that was actually, the sales dip was actually probably earlier, but if they were measuring in revenue and not units, they may not have felt it. Because a lot of people raised prices because they met the market where the market was. They were able to get away with, venues have been able to raise their prices. You guys have all gone out to eat. It's $50 to get a burger and a beer now, right? So I think that sales wise, they were under the impression, oh, liquor, beer, and wine sales were fine. But I think it's because they raised the prices up and they really weren't looking at unit count. So I think that, and part of it is because I talked to this guy who lives next to a college and he goes to this bar and he's like, none of the college kids, they come and have one beer and they go sit out in the front porch and they smoke their pens. So that's happening for people who are taking the sobriety journey. They're just choosing weed. Weed is a big part of the stage we're on right now, guys. That is why we're here. It's not because of anything else. It's because weed is now an option And people are like, hey, let's do that. And then I still like to have a drink in my hand. So let me have like a mocktail or a non-alcoholic beer or whatever. So I don't know. That is, I think that the cannabis play and tying those two things together is going to be interesting. So hospitality is going to finally respond because they've been late adopters. And then third, I think we're going to see all the big brands start to be like, oops, we better get on this train. And they're going to start to look at the smaller independent suppliers and start to buy them. Or they're going to start doing their own formulations, like Wilson has said, or whatever. So now I think that our traditional liquor people are seeing the writing on the wall, looking at generational trends. That's my future drinker. He's not going to come and buy the alcohol. Like I got to make something for him to meet him where he is. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not totally different than what Brian was saying, because he was saying he sees the low and no RTDs and wine. I think he said spirits weren't quite there yet.
And then NA beer.
Right? Is that my right?
And NA beer.
And NA beer. And then he said mergers and acquisitions, which is what you just said. And I can totally see that, because there's some really good brands out there. I could totally see them getting scooped up.
Yeah,
but
that's
there's not that many.
Good.
There's still not enough. If you think about it in terms, and I keep going back to the craft beer movement in the 90s, because that's where I came from, and I watched this happen once. This is very much following the same sort of vibe for me. There's not enough spirits brands like this for the big boys to scoop in right now. So they're gonna have to formulate or start their own stuff. If you look at it right now, like even if you go to zeroproof.com or any places, if you can find them in one place, which you can't right now, which is a procurement is a problem. So I think procurement is our 2024 and 2025 major effort. We've got to find ways to get people the product and they can find it in a central place. I would say that, there's just not enough of them. There's literally maybe less than 600 beer, wine, liquor. Not including adaptogenics and all that other stuff. But, there's a lot of people making stuff in buckets in a basement right now. So we'll see what happens the first quarter.
Well, very, 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 the perspective that I'll bring to this conversation is I want to be very clear. This is not, Jack Daniels is going to exist 20 years from now. Jack Daniels is going to do very well. Woodford Reserve is going to be great. But the companies of the future, the suppliers, the distributors, the retailers and restaurateurs, the ones that are going to actually grow and optimize their business, is they're going to actually get on board with this shift in consumers. Because again, there's going to be a consumer, to your point, Heather, that is not going to come to alcohol. So how are you going to capture them? But there's also going to be a consumer like me. Like I like to drink, but there's certain occasions I don't like to drink. So how are you going to capture that mindful drinker? Because I'd probably throw myself in that mindful drinker. Today is Thursday. I got to work tomorrow on Friday. I still want to have a cocktail, but I don't want to have the hangover with that cocktail. Or I'm driving tonight, or I'm pregnant, but I still want to be part of the party, whatever it may be, right? Exactly. So the point is I feel like some people are shying away from the conversation, and I love the fact that Rosen actually in his comments put it out there. Maybe I was reading between the lines, and hopefully Brian will engage with us and he'll see this. But people like Brian, who is an influencer in the spirits category, helping seed these companies of the future, I hope he seeds some of the NOLO companies as well, because I think that's a huge opportunity for his fund to help move that forward. And I also hope companies like Diageo and Brown-Forman and Heaven Hill look to scoop up some of these brands to actually continue to build out the category, because it's an opportunity for us to actually capture that consumption period along the way. But I don't think it's going to replace, I hope it doesn't, because I have a business, and I work for businesses that are in the beverage alcohol space, and that's going to continue to be a very viable category. So I'm just telling all the people out there.
A couple interesting things though about the channels that I don't know who else is thinking about this, but if the distributors and if the big brands, liquor brands, do not start playing in the sandbox, who is the most likely person to say to themselves, there's a huge market share here, we should get the NOLO? Soda. They have distribution channels. They don't have to worry about liquor licenses in most states and all that stuff. So big soda is our biggest worry if the alcohol brands do not jump on board, because this is what's interesting about I find the most fascinating of all about the NOLO space. We're thinking about it in traditional terms of liquor because it looks like liquor. It's a non-alcoholic spirit, it's a non-alcoholic brand. So we think, okay, well, we have to go through the channels that we would normally go through, our Diageos, whatever. But the truth is, no, you don't, because there's no specific licensing necessarily. Maybe some states do because there are like traces of alcohol and things in certain states. But if these guys don't say, oh, we got to buy in because we want to keep our market, it's not even about capturing markets and keeping their market, because their former drinkers may go to a mindful drinking state. You might lose them to big soda, because what's to say they're not going to come in?
Hands down, I work for the Coca-Cola Company, and Coca-Cola Company talks about occasion-based marketing. And they talk about there's 8 consumption periods during the day. So if you don't think there's someone at Coca-Cola saying, okay, here's the 8 consumption periods, how do I capture them all? There's a video called The Road to Rome. And the guy named Doug Ivester was a CEO, and I'm going to really date myself, but basically he talks about, the per capita consumption, and Rome, Georgia was the highest capita per consumption for Coca-Cola in the United States. Now, play today is, okay, how do I capture that consumption period, utilizing NOLO, alcohol, soda, functional beverage, THC. If I'm running a business, I want to be in every one of those categories to meet that consumer demand and need at the end of the day. And that's, I think, of the suppliers and the distributors actually in restaurateurs that meet that need, they're going to be successful. So I hate it when I go into a restaurant and I look at the menu and I'm like, do you have an NA beer? Yeah, they have one choice. I have Heineken's or Old Duels, and it's on the back of the menu like a Shirley Temple. We need to rethink this. If I go into a retail establishment, yeah, where are your NA stuff? Yeah, on the back shelf in the back corner there, and it's like out of stock. There's nothing there, and they're not paying attention. Those folks need to start paying attention. That's what I'm saying. It's not going to replace Jack Daniels. It's actually going to enhance with Jack Daniels, those consumers to come in, because who plans the trip? Like if I'm going to go out for the evening, if I'm driving the car, do you think?
You mean the women?
I think it's the person not drinking plans the trip.
Oh,
right. So if I'm for the evening,
because women do everything. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
Well, the shopper typically, I hate to say it, probably majority. I would say, if you look at the percentages, probably a woman is probably the shopper, especially in a lot of households. But that's that's me. I don't have that to substantiate that argument. But there's someone that plans a trip. And for our category, if you're going out on premise in the evening, I'm telling you, the person that's the designated driver is going to determine where they're going to go.
I think it's the person with the strongest personality. So.
Yeah, I think it's whoever the leader is of the group.
That's the designated driver, because they're the ones that have the courage to not drink.
Well, I mean,
the only sober one.
A lot of them
That's
are
right. They're the ones that think insanely.
Well, I think the other thing that, to your point, and that's why Zero Proof Go is doing what they're doing, is the hospitality industry is such late adopters to this, and they're not doing any education, and they're dialing it in, phoning it in if they're doing it at all. And, every time I go into a place, obviously I'm asking if they have something, and they may have like an Old Duels or whatever, but they don't even have it on their bottle shelf. They don't even have it on their menu. And that's what I'm talking about. The advocate, the market, is not asking for it. If they do ask for it, chances are the bartender or the server, who may have their own unhealthy relationship with alcohol, or maybe they're not reporting it up. So it's definitely one of these things with the venues where they have to build it, and then the market will come. And that's what I've been seeing with all these interviews with venues. Most of them didn't start it because they were like, hey, yeah, let's just try it. I'm losing money. Of course, they're going to make a lot more money. Most of them tried it because they tried it for dry January, and then people were very grateful, and the response was really good, and they kept it going. So that's why I'm saying part of it is what's happening this So I just had somebody interview me for Restaurant Business Magazine, and that's exactly like what they're saying. Like, how does the question was, how are venues going to um, take advantage of dry January and not lose sales? And I'm like, they got to put a program and they got to do marketing around it. They got to do marketing around it because that's what's going to happen. Now, most of the people that I've talked to in my advisory council will say, when I take a break from drinking, because my advisory council is made up of all different kinds of segments, when I take a break from drinking, I just don't go out because there's nothing on the menu for me. And so not only are they're losing their drinking business, they're losing their eating business too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe
Yeah, it's definitely a mindset, right?
Or Eats, but
Yeah, I think there's a mindset that needs to be changed because when you think about an ABEV, yeah, sure, I've probably got old duels in the back, whatever. It's like you said, it's a second thought. But now with this cocktail culture that we have, it's a whole new area of space that they can make money on, and probably make a lot more money on because eventually the prices will go down. I think they're kind of expensive now, just because of the low production. But I would say long term, that's a real estate a menu on the real estate on a menu that's going to make them a lot more money than at least not having it on there, or having soda, or having water, or having sparkling water, whatever the case may be that they may be choosing, versus these really cool mocktails that are part of this experience culture. We went to the social Lake Mary Social, Lake Mary Social, and they had Christmas drinks, which was really fun. We ended up making them for our Christmas cocktail, and then we had bathtub gin, and the experience was so fun because they literally brought out a tray with a bathtub on it and a little rubber ducky, and then they used that sea foam, and it was like bubbles. We laughed and cried and texted all our friends and social media the crap out of that thing, and it gave us endless excitement and fun. I mean, that's 2024 to me.
Wow.
Well, to your point, experiences, right? So people want Instagrammable moments. They're not going to Instagram their bottle of tonic, dude. Like, you got to put some effort into it. You got to make it look fun.
Yeah.
And what is really interesting to me is I say that the restaurant industry is much like the fashion industry. You got to stay relevant and you got to stay on top of stuff. You got to stay sexy and fun. That's why people come out there. They can make their burger at home, dude. They're like, do something to make it an experience for me. And it's so crazy to me because we talk a lot about the NOLO space and we talk about alcohol and these like two kind of bodies, but we're missing all this really cool, what really makes it sexy and fun is all the adaptogenic stuff that's going on out there. Because I'm having these cocktails with like ashwagandha and I've got reishi mushrooms and there's like an apothecarian vibe to it where I could be like, oh, this is something. So you could craft a cocktail that's still like a concoction with stimulants in it that just doesn't have alcohol in it. And as a bartender, career bartender, my whole life I've been behind the bar since I was 18. Like I'm so bored behind the bar. I love yeah, let's do this. Let's make something fun. But I think that the mentality of the venues right now is like, it's not going to make me money and it's boring because they don't have the education because there's no single place to get all the movement that's happening so quickly. That's why Zero Proof Go is doing the webinars. Like, no, come over. It's fun. There's so much cool stuff. And I think that that's what's going to make them differentiate them from their slower adopters.
Yeah, it's funny. I been doing some consulting with Finnegan's Brew Company. I think you both know that. And they have a tap room, right? And in that tap room, they serve their beer. And then they had soda. So they had Sprite, they had Coke and water. So I convinced them to actually put Cool Mocks into the venue, which is my friend Daniel Goss, which I think you both have met or will meet at some point. But Daniel has this brand called Cool Mocks. Well, we put Cool Mocks in there, and we've sold out Cool Mocks 3 times in that tap room because the consumer was looking for something different than Sprite, Coke, and water. So we offered that. So now I think about that across all these venues across North America. Didn't take away from Finnegan's Tap beer sales. it only enhanced the experience. Now I'm going to a Vikings game this weekend. I'm going to stop over at Finnegan's because I can get a cool mox, you know, and I don't have to just get a draft beer. So you're right. We have the next step is to go to that experience, right? Like, what are we going to do to actually, if I'm going to go to Finnegan's as a place, what am I going to do to make that not like, this like empty place, bar that just I can go get a beer? What am I going to experience when I go there? I love the bathtub gin because that was an experience that went over social media, Jesse. So I think you're right. There's more to this equation than just selling, NOLO or low alcohol. I think it's more than that. But you gotta make it. You gotta make it available and make people feel they're inclusive. At the end of the day.
Yeah. I like that idea because when you look at our industry and you look at the craft beer industry, and it had a rough year, and how can we help them turn that around? Well, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's experiences. Like for me, I'll tell you one of my craft beer stories. I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma for a couple of weeks last fall. Well, they had a gluten-free brewery, but they also had a whole gluten-free kitchen. And I can't tell you when the last time I had a fried pickle. Do you know how elated I was that I got to have a fried pickle?
I'm going to get my fried pickle tonight over at Charlie's on Pryor, by the way.
Yes. Nice. You eat them for me too. Things like that. They're looking at moving into Dallas, which just makes me so happy because now I have a place to go where everybody can go, whether you're gluten free or not. The beers are awesome, the food is good, and it's inclusive, right? So I finally get to have my fried pickles whenever I want to. Maybe it's something similar to that where if they can figure out what experience that is or what that looks like, maybe it'll help them bring in more people. But I think to your point too, they do have to have more than just beer. So a lot of people just don't drink beer, whether it's alcohol or not. So have alternatives. I know one of the in interviewing with the athletic brewing team, one of their strategies was to commit to or to get into these breweries because of the process they have to go to get certified and do non-alc and all this kind of stuff. They're like, hey, just use ours. We've got kegs we can ship, and if somebody wants a non-alcoholic choice, then it's easy breezy, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really smart too.
Yeah.
So I was in Puerto Rico a couple weeks ago, and I did an interview with a woman down there who used to work for a distributor. She's American, stateside born, and she bought a craft beer bar down in Puerto Rico. And she actually drinks non-alcoholic beers all the time. Like when I first reached out to her, and she's a mindful drinker. She was like picking up her kid in line at school, and she's like, she took a picture of her what she was drinking, athletic. Actually athletic. She's like, I love it. I feel like I'm doing something naughty, like I'm drinking, but I'm not. I'm just drinking. So, but from her perspective, because she's a beer geek and she watched it, she worked for a distributor, like I said, and then she has a craft beer bar in Puerto Rico. She's like, but when I go stateside and I go to a store now and I'm looking at the beer section, I get overwhelmed. It's so oversaturated. There's it's not fun like it was in the beginning. The fun was great. Like back in the day when craft beer came out, if you remember, if you're old enough, sadly I am because I was in it and making beer for one of the earliest ones. Like every time a new flavor came out or a new brand, we all ran to the store to get it because we wanted to talk about it and we share with our friends. And we were probably using MySpace back then, but it was like a big deal when a brewery opened. And now they're closing down, sadly, all over the place because everybody can make beer now. It's like everybody's making beer. We had that hazy kind of movement. It's like, but now it's like they ran out of fun stuff to do. And so I feel like it's a shame because to your point, like how are they going to get the NA certification and pivot like that? They have a better, if I was consulting breweries, which I have done often in my life, I would say, like, you gotta start throwing adaptogens in there, Why aren't you putting reishi mushrooms into your, why isn't lion's mane in your beer? Why, there's plenty of them.
It's in my coffee.
Right? Like you gotta stay relevant too. But also differentiate yourself because so her point it was that when she goes and sees all those refrigerators, you know what she does? She seeks out the non-alcoholic beverage section because she knows that's growing and that's exciting now. Now it's like, oh, this is like that energy back then, you know, like let's try it, you know.
Well, it's
I'll say as a non.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say to comment on that, Heather. As basically a non-beer drinker, because I haven't really been able to drink it a lot. Now I am because I have Athletic and some other options that I'm pretty excited about. So I'm really pumped about kind of digging in and trying different types of beers. But for me as a outside consumer, you know, buying beer for my wife, it was so saturated on IPA. I feel like there's IPAs like 90% of it. So how is that differentiating from someone else? East Coast, West Coast, orange, persimmon, whatever flavors. But for me, it just didn't seem like there was a lot of variety, and maybe because, you know, I love Kolsch beer. I can't find Kolsch beer anywhere. Maybe at an ABC, you know, and or there's like some other brands that I've seen float in from, you know, like Iceland and whatever that are different and a little bit lighter in style, or maybe amber, which she likes. And so for me, you know, not being an IPA drinker, and she doesn't like IPAs either, your choices are a little bit more limited. So maybe there is some golden nuggets out there that, or you know, different styles of beers that they could bring to the table to differentiate themselves, along with the adaptogenics and.
I mean, even just dropping the alcohol content, right? So I used to make beer for a living. You can control that. Why are, you know, just to be a little bit more in the space? Maybe you're not a low or no. We're musing here, audience. We don't know. We're making suggestions because this is our space. We're just trying to say, like, if you guys haven't started thinking about it, here are some creative ways to think about it.
Yeah.
Maybe
I am in the space though.
Right. Well, yeah, great. I'm talking about the audience, right? Like why not, if you, because my worry for my people right now, my hospitality professionals, and for my existing liquor brands, you know, I have a lot of friends still in the beer business after all these years, is don't ignore it. Just don't ignore it. So I'm worried that they're ignoring it, and they got to pivot. They got to do something to respond. They have to react, and they can't just hide from it. They have to do something. And if it's something as simple as just making a lower version alcohol and branding it that way, make it simple, or throwing the adaptogens in there, because that's sexy stuff.
For craft beer, in order for them to survive, there's basically three things happening in the category. One is they're looking at NAs. There are certain people that have made a statement that they're betting their entire future on the NA category. Two is starting to co-pack. Those that have capacity are actually co-packing, and guess what? They're not necessarily co-packing NA beer. They're co-packing THC products because they're coming fast and furious. I sit in Minnesota, as you both know, and that law changed, and there's probably over 200 products that are THC. So these craft breweries now are actually contract brewing and making THC and products to bring them to market fast and fiercely. So that's, and then they're co-packing. So that's how they're surviving, because their tap rooms and their distribution business for their craft beer isn't making it. Because guess what? It's a battleground at retail. That space. Where do you think the retailer's going to get space for all the RTDs that are in the market, all the functional beverages coming, and the THC products? They're going right after craft beer, right after that space.
Because we need 5 Coca-Colas and of each type in each cooler. Well, no offense, Coca-Cola, but geez.
That's all contract. That's all a dirty little word called CMAs, cooperative marketing agreements. They buy that space. They hands down buy their code equipment, their ads, their space is bought. And I'm sure I'll probably get a reaction from that, but that shelf space is for sale and they can buy it.
Well, I owned a liquor store, so.
Yeah. Right. So.
Yeah. It's interesting because I just sold my bar and liquor store after having it for 20 years. And so I'm not going to be able to experience it from that side of it. Like, it would be really, really fun. I wish I still had it just to kind of play. Yeah. But that is a really, really interesting thought. Like, you're right. These new brands, they got to find, people are going to knock down walls and expand their buildings to accommodate the product. Something has to go bye-byes, and it's probably going to be craft beer. Very, very good point.
Yeah, I think Brian, go back to Brian's call out today. I think he's right on it. It'd be interesting to go a little bit deeper in terms of really what's happening. I can just tell you from my neck of woods of talking to several craft breweries over the last few weeks, as I'm helping, company I'm doing some consulting for explore their opportunities as well. So that seems to be kind of the underlying tone or opportunity. Is craft beer going to go away? And Heather, you obviously experienced the microbrew revolution. Then it went away for a while, and then all of a sudden, craft beer revolution came in, right? And I was talking to a craft brewery today. I'm not going to name them, but they're like, "Look, it's cyclical, right? It's going to come and go. But how are you going to manage through that downturn? Because there absolutely is a downturn." And what I'm saying is, adopt the NOLOs, get involved in it, because it's only going to enhance the brands that you make as you go forward. Give an offering. Hey, here's my alcohol product. Here's my non-alcoholic product. Here's my low to no alcohol product. Here's my THC product. Make a selection as a supplier, as a retailer, as a distributor, right? At the end of the day.
Wine's going to take a little bit of a hit too, though. I mean, do you really need 80 caps and 40 shards? I don't know.
Wine, I always argue, and some of the wineries is there has to be a hook, right? Why do I want to buy your wine? Like I get the opportunity to work with a company called Rescue Dog Wines. Well, what's their hook? They're rescuing dogs. 50% of every wine that they sell goes to help dogs. And they make good wine, 99 scores. But I'm buying Rescue Dog wine because they're doing social good. So that's the reason. In a very crowded category, to your point, which cab am I going to choose today? Well, I'm going to choose this cab. Either they're just doing something in sustainability, it's low alcohol. Another thing, just personally, my mom is, Heather, you know this, but my mom was a big drinker and she has dementia. You know what we did is we actually switched out her alcohol wine to no alcohol wine. Right.
Excellent.
So that's why I do it. Now, I don't know what choices my sister's made, but again, there's an opportunity. My mom, she can't drink. It affects her memory. So we're doing that too. So that's another reason to buy it. But yeah, I think wine's been a tough year for wine in general.
I haven't really looked into one, and I'm thinking about it because I really feel like in some ways, like you're saying, Jack Daniels will be around. I feel like wine is always going to be around. And I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but I think that the segment that you're referring to is that the everyday drink wine, right? Like the Bordeaux, all that good fancy stuff is going to still be around because that's actually investments. I remember there was a stock exchange, we were talking about the recession. This guy came in with my hairdresser and he's like, he's a millionaire. He's like, when the stock market acts up like this, I go and buy gold and wine. I was like, wine? He's like, you can buy in futures and wine futures, or you can buy in future vintages, and they just put it into that. And I'm like, that's really fascinating to me. But the interesting thing about the wine segment is that the majority of people who are going through this recovery kind of journey right now are 65% are middle-aged women. The wine mommy culture. That's what's actually we're seeing a lot of, and that's why it's so loud right now because all those wine mommies don't have wine, and they're now all life coaching and they're all like coming out on their journey. But so that's taking a hit, I think, from that segment a lot. But it's going to be that low end barefooty, that kind of stuff. I think. I don't know. I'm just totally using.
I know. I was at a Total Wine picking up Cool Mocks. And I ran into this woman at the shelf, and on the shelf, you had Cool Mox eye level, and then down, he had all this wine. And this woman, I was asking her questions. I'm like, well, what wine should I buy? And she seemed very knowledgeable about NA wines. And there were some, I can't name them at the top of my head now, but there were really some really cool looking bottles of this wine. Now, full transparency, I've not tried an NA wine. I've tried NA beers, but I've not tried NA wine. So I'm wondering, I'm sure there's some really good wines out there in the category for NA that would only enhance the experience for the alcohol-based wine. Because let's be straightforward. Sometimes I do want to buzz. I want to drink some, really good Bordeaux, out on, at a cafe and have some nice pasta and enjoy a little bit of the day, and obviously moderation.
Bad news. There's no really good way of making a replica red wine right now. They're working on the science of that, but there's the tannins that make the red wine taste like red wine. Otherwise, it tastes like grape juice. So it's a little bit of a rough. Now they're doing all the whites and rosés and stuff, and sparklings is okay. But if you're looking for something with your steak, it's still rough out there. And that's the one thing I miss the most. I'll tell you. Like, I was a big beer drinker. I drank a ton of beer, but when I have steak, I want a glass of red wine so badly with that. Like, it's not about the buzz. It's just like I love those two, combos. If they make a good red wine, no alcohol red wine, I will be the first to report it and tell you. But they're trying.
Yeah, I can't wait for that to happen. I'm looking forward to discovering that in 24.
Yeah. When I'm looking to get together with the two of you in 2024 to break bread, I know Jessie and I talked about that yesterday, but I'll tell you what, I'll put a piece of chocolate cake in front of you and a good glass of red wine, and you'll be like, oh yeah, nothing better than chocolate cake, wine, and steak. You're like, what a combination. But I'm telling you, it's you can't go wrong for sure. And hence my in the conversation is, look, the NOLO is not going to replace all these great wines, beers, and spirits at the end of the day. And as soon as the retail operators, the distributors, and the suppliers understand that, then this thing is going to move forward. And the point is, the sea change is going to happen with or without them. So the people that actually get on board are going to actually feel the fruits of their decision, right? Come forward.
To kind of circle back, I'll tell you, in thinking about my full year at Thirsty Thursday, my interview with Claire Warner, she surprised me with a lot of her thoughts. She's gone in depth she's thought in depth, but we talked a little bit about what is that experience going to look like for the generations to come that don't want to drink, and they're on their phones and they've got their pens and they're, what does that look like? What's that experience look like? Because, like you said, Heather, I throw a party. When you come into my place, I'm throwing a party for you. I think that's so cool. And what does that look like for this next generation who's going to come in? Are they going to be on their phones the whole time? Because it's about talking and having conversation and enjoying the evening with your food and your drink. I think that's like something that kind of threw me back a bit, because she kind of put it on the responsibility of the restaurateurs to adapt to what they want. And I think that's really a big thought, because I've never seen it or heard about it in that way. Yes, customers come in and we ask for certain things, or we don't go because that's not cool anymore, or whatever the case may be. But that is a whole new way of thinking to me.
So that's why Zero Proof Go is doing what they're doing, right? Is because we're trying to educate the hospitality people that you got to do this, because you're going to miss out on the segment. And on part from my hospitality consulting side, I've been telling people when they come to with their business plans, hey, I would open a restaurant. And I'm like, okay, where's the experience? Like, you just can't open up a restaurant because you've got good food and good service anymore. And nobody has good service anymore right now. But you can't just do that. There's got to be something. There's got to be a hook. There's got to be something for me to Instagram about, right? So part of the Zero Proof Go thing, you really know that we're not anti-alcohol and we're not sobriety focused, because this is a primer for when THC is legalized federally. So I have a local bottle shop that I go to, and it's a Zero Proof bottle shop, and she makes me a THC cocktail. It's gorgeous. It's called a Wishy Woman. I love it. And she's able to put THC in it. This is another thing that these restaurants are not thinking about. They're not even just competing against themselves anymore. They're competing with these dry bars that can sell weed or put weed in their cocktails. And so this is another blind side for them. They're like, and they can't do it because they have liquor licenses, or they may not be in states that are friendly to that. When the government decides to legalize it federally, if you already have a NOLO program, guess what you can do now? Oh, I'm going to upcharge a tincture. Here's $5 more, and I'm going to throw some Gorilla Glue in your what was a mocktail. So that's what I'm banking on and I'm thinking of. And to your point, Sam, about THC beers, I bought Tilray stock. You guys know about Tilray?
Oh yeah,
I'm
I'm a stockholder.
right. And Tilray bought.
I'm missing
Tilray
out.
bought.
Educate me.
Tilray is a cannabis company. They're global, but they've really been eating up all these little cannabis companies too, and they're smart because I believe what they're doing is posturing for big pharma. So my Heather Ransom, I'm just my lens. I really believe that all these little cannabis companies that are popping up states to states, as soon as the feds legalize it, they're going to regulate it so much and tax it so much. The only people that are going to be able to deploy it are pharma. And so pharma is just waiting. They're just waiting for the feds to legalize it. And then they're going to buy up all these little companies. So I'm always like, Tilray's not going to be Tilray someday. But Tilray was smart enough.
That's sad.
I know.
That's so sad.
Tilray. Well, then, but don't worry about it. Psilocybin's still on the table, right? So,
microdosing.
So Tilray bought Sweetwater. Sweetwater has a beer called 420. So they're already starting it from the cannabis side. The cannabis guys are getting into the cocktail business too. This is the thing that the liquor guys have to look all around. They need a 360 because people are coming at them for every direction that I don't think that they're really thinking about.
Yeah. Well, I'll send this to my friend Todd Gilmore, who's the president of Tilray Beer. Maybe we can get him on your podcast, Jessie, because he's a friend.
Yes.
For sure. So they definitely have bought up a lot of, to your point, Heather, a lot of craft breweries because, and some of this cannabis is, and the point is waiting for it to go federally legalized. They're putting themselves in a really good position for the future. I wish I would have sold my Tilray stock when it was at 300, by the way, but I'm just fine.
What's that today? $2.02?
Yeah. So, great call.
I'm on the Tilray train. I am HLD. Don't worry about me, Mr. President. I'm here for it because I see what they see. This is a very long play. I also did the same thing with my my electric vehicle stock. I bet on all that stuff too because that's all going to come to fruition at some point. It's painful to watch every day.
But I hope so. I'm an owner of several cannabis stocks that I'm still hitting. If it hits, I have several million shares of cannabis stock. So I hope that it does go because something's going to hit.
We got to buy some NOLO stock. That's our next thing. Let's all keep an eye out and see what we like out there.
Yeah. Well, I love this conversation. I know we're getting close to the hour, and I hope, obviously I invited some other friends, that either touch the space like Chrissy. I did invite her, Jessie, Heather Rams, Megan Anderson out of Michigan, as well as some brand owners. So if of some friends that like to join us, the plan is to do this every third Thursday, and then Jessie and I are going to manage. Either I'll do it one Thursday, kind of every other month, in terms of as we go forward. I mean, we just want to have a discussion, and it could be around NOLO. It can be about anything, but I just really want to just thank the two of you to becoming my friend and connecting me with this year. You've made an incredible impact on me personally, and I very much do appreciate that. And I do want to absolutely break bread with both of you in the new year. I know that you work with part of the drinks agency as well in terms of providing your service. And it's all about the network at the end of the day, is connecting with folks to opportunities. And if I can connect the two of you to opportunities, then I've done my job. And I do think this opportunity around NOLO to get people to be more aware of what the opportunity is that's in front of us, and to have the discussion. If we can get the Brian Rosens of the world or whomever. Jesse, you've had every president of every company on your podcast. Let's get them to have a discussion about this. And Heather, I love what you're doing with Zero Proof Go. I think it's like the Zagat of NOLO, right? Like if I could put a Zero Proof Go sticker on my door that I'm Zero Proof Go certified, then those Zero Proof Go getters will come into my place to be part of my offering. That, hey, that's a win for me as a restaurateur and as a distributor building my portfolio. So you're doing great work. So very much appreciate that. Do you guys have any final thoughts?
No, I ditto, Sam and Heather. It's been awesome meeting you. Sam and I talk every week. It's been awesome. We've kind of wish, we've recorded a few of the sessions just because a lot of, I ask sometimes the entrepreneurs that come on, has anybody told you to record your sessions or write it down or talk about your journey? And almost everybody says yes, because I think it's important part of the growth of a human, yourself, and then, like you said, your network, Sam, because I've learned so much from you in these last few months, just talking to you about what you're working on with Pinata and beyond. I mean, it's really been, it's been a game changer for me. And I think that and one of the reasons this happened is because my my marketing mentor, Suresh, he's been my mentor for about a year. We meet once a month, and I said, I'm not getting enough feedback. I need more feedback. And he said, well, I have a group of like 5 or 6 people, and we connect together, and that's what we do. We help each other out. And I think that was such a smart idea. So that's when I said to Sam, hey, we should be talking. And it was immediate. It was like within a week of knowing you, or a few days, I'm like, yeah, we should talk every week. And it's been fruitful. And because we're excited about being a startup. We're excited about, new ventures and, what that energy is like and how to support each other. So that's been key. And Heather, you've been amazing in teaching me so much about what you're doing. And I think you're spot on with your thoughts. And thank you for sharing that knowledge with us. So I'm excited to help you any way I can with this movement through whatever platform I have. And, let me know whatever I can do to help you.
I mean, right now the ask is share the news of Happy Hour Happy for All, which is happening on January 11th. I don't know when this is going to be aired, but probably after that. But that's a big important thing for people, because it's really driving awareness to this, no matter what. So that would be helpful if you could share anything about the crawl. I have a couple articles coming out about it too, which is great. But I think the other thing that is important as startups, like you were saying, Jessie, and us all kind of being in this strange new land, navigating it, is it can be very isolating, right? Like your family and friends don't want to talk about, your job every day. And not only is it nice to be able to connect over a topic that we're all shared and passionate about, but also connect about the personal journey we're going through as individuals as we're struggling, bootstrapping these things together. And that community is really important to our mental health, I think, because you feel unique, but every day I have the same thought, like, my body and soul tells me to just keep moving and keep going, and it's all going to work out, and to not focus on the outcomes, just to focus on the work, because the work is the important part. And even if, like I say, like Zero Proof Go doesn't go anywhere, I have learned so much, and I have made these great friends with you that I will, really appreciate. And so I appreciate your companionship on this journey, and that we're all making each other better and also less lonely.
Yeah, ditto. Well, thank you both. It's been a tremendous conversation. I'm looking forward to future discussions. And Jessie, I think we record our calls every week when we have a discussion, and I meet with Heather too. So, and we have some great conversations. So if anything, we document it and we share that back out with different folks, because both of you have a lot to offer. And again, I very much appreciate the friendship. And if I don't talk to you before the new year, I'm wishing both of you a happy 2024. And thanks for joining me on this happy hour today.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. Yeah. This is fun.
Everybody. All right. Well, thanks.
Yeah, happy New Year. Thanks, Sam.
All right. Yeah.
Bye.
Cheers and Kampai. Produced by Fedora J Productions.